You're listening to Keeba-Live. Let's talk with a man with a loud microphone. Here he is, your host and mine, William Lee. Welcome, everybody, to the show. It's Thursday, and I'm back at the microphone. Tonight, I'm going to talk about homeless. You've probably heard me rant and rave about homeless before, but let's talk tonight about the homeless and the actual picture of what the homeless is developing into, because there's so many things in the news that are really hammering at the homeless situation. Now, I know what you're thinking. Everybody's talking politics. No, they're not really. You see, somewhere the old, I think thoughts of, we're so tired of hearing who's got the nomination, who doesn't. And when we ask ourselves, are we really truly that interested right now until the general election in November, when they tell us just before the polls are actually open how great we are and how they're going to defend our rights and listen to us? It's kind of like listening to and when you think about that for a minute, let's add something to it. The cuckoo is missing. Yes, I think so. So I'm not going to talk about election politics. The state of Washington, of course, has introduced to everybody that we are a Democratic state of liberal hyenas. However, the Democrats are in power and have been for so long that the cows now out in the pasture go demo moo. Yeah, so that takes care of that. Well, I'm going to jump off of that and jump into the subject tonight, what's going on. And I'm going to take all that stuff that we have concerning politics tonight on the 2024 elections, and I'm just going to simply let them go. Yeah, slowly let them go, because I think I've drummed up enough of that interest. So let's get into the homeless. As we've done on this show, we've had a couple of other podcasts that we've had some figures that have talked about homeless. And one of them was Reverend Crow, who, by the way, has done a remarkable job. And I talked to him in 2015 on a show called The Disruptors, as our pilot show. And we were really excited about how things were going at that time, because it looked like, yes, there was an epidemic of homelessness and street people and drugs, but all of a sudden we could see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel when we talked to Reverend. And Reverend Crow really talked about basically what's going on in the street, what we could do in a positive movement to help these people out that are on the streets. Well, as time has gone on, and that interview was a few years ago, things have really changed. We're talking about, first of all, the reason that homeless is so bad is because affordable homes are not available. Apartment rents have sky high rocketed. That's true. They really have. They've pretty well shot themselves right out of space. And in fact, some people actually feel that there is a opportunity for a change of ideas when it comes to this homeless situation and the growth of the home industry. Well, I thought this is a great time to take a look at it. Now, we have all these people that are on the streets. Out of 100%, let's look at 100% population of street people, like in Portland, they're all over in the downtown area, Seattle. My goodness, it goes on and on and on, where you can find homeless. Now, you've got a certain percentage of that homeless that are going to stay homeless. Let's be honest with you. They don't want to be put in affordable housing. They don't want to be put into shelters. They just want to sit where they're at, on the sidewalks, in their tents, up against buildings, or in the parks or areas that everybody else used to get to enjoy. And they just want to be there because drugs. I heard an interview on one of the radio talk shows where they actually asked a homeless person, why don't you take housing? Well, I don't want it. Why do you prefer to live out on the streets? And we heard stories about some people saying, hey, man, it's drugs. It's drugs. It's a supermarket for drugs, which is true. It is in the homeless population. They don't want to change because they like that drug attitude, that world. And now that fentanyl is coming over the border and infiltrating our country, destroying our country, meth used to be bad. Everybody was scared of meth, but let me tell you something. Fentanyl is beating meth out, okay? The Seattle Fire Department goes out 1,500 times a month. That's what the record is right now, to revive people that have been on overdoses and are about to die from drug overdose. And most of the cases, I'd say, according to the fire department, probably over 90% are fentanyl related. Now, that should shake you up right there. But that's just one problem of the homeless situation. First of all, we have affordable homes, which are not available. Believe me. We just went out and took a look at the real estate market, and we're going to have a good friend of ours that's going to be on the show, and he's going to talk to us about the market and what's going on in the real estate market. But when you stop and think about it, an affordable home now, for most people, they're within roughly $8,000 a month income, which seems to be the magic number now. With that amount of income, they can afford $2,500 to $3,000 a month for a home, which puts them in the ballpark, not mentioning trying to figure out who's going to, help them with the down payment, closing cost, and tax for the first year on the property. They're looking at basically $450,000 home. That's about the average price range. And when we have his name is Joe Higby on with us from John L. Scott, we're going to be asking him these questions because we want to show you what's going on in the market and explain to me how all these inflated prices for homes, frankly, that I think a bulldozer would be the push of the whole industry. Just kind of push those houses in, take the property, clean it off, and build affordable homes. This market has gone nuts. And with the interest rate up, of course there's going to be homes that people aren't going to be affordable. They're going to be out in the street. I mean, it's just logical because also you've got to look at the problems of the fact that they don't make enough money to get into a home or get the borrowing property whole scenario put together, the borrowing, the amount of money it takes, the move, and the whole thing together. And then the monthly costs, they just can't reach out and grab. Now we go to the rental market to see what rental units are looking at. And I'm telling you, that's going to scare you worse than trying to buy a home because the rental market is absolutely gone nuts. And the reason it's gone nuts is because, and I know the people in Olympia, our great folks in Olympia, the ones that are legislators at the world's largest daycare center where the right side does not speak to the left side, and where we have Captain Binky, our governor, head of the program keeping the children from beating each other to death, we have a situation of they have no idea what's going on because they're so busy designing more taxes. Taxes continually. Now, when they are busy working taxes, of course, and trying to figure out how to raise more money, and we'll talk about that in the second segment of the show, the homeless situation doesn't seem to really appear. It really doesn't. And when it does, it's usually a specially written bill that gets from the Senate or the House or wherever it's headed and usually gets shot down. And the reason being is because now there's a confrontation of some cities want to put the homeless situation together in their plan. In other words, their council, which runs the city, makes the laws, works with taxation. They want to do it their way. And they listen to the people in the community. And if the people in the community say, we don't want homeless in our town, they're not going to be in the town. It's kind of simple. But yet our group in Olympia is now trying to figure out how to make sure that if your city, independent city, says, no, we're not going to buy that program, you're not going to force these different housing miniature house programs for the homeless forced down our throats like they have had just recently, I understand, one organization had it all cleared in King County area, putting together a really nice transitional housing program. It failed. It didn't get off the ground. Snohomish County has got some areas in that area of the state that are not happy with the idea. In fact, I sat down after the last few days of listening to some of the podcasts on homeless and what was going on, especially in Seattle, because that seems to be the second step to the what I call totally airheaded situations of politicians thinking thoughts such as, the council members for King County, they're trying real hard. Constantine, who is the head man over there in Seattle, has got some really interesting liberal ideas and is kind of building himself a little, I would call it an army of politicians that will do what he says to do. And there seems to be a little controversy there, and you can check out on the news or on social media. Just look it up, what Constantine's doing as far as the homeless situation is concerned, and you'll be appalled. There's no doubt you'll be appalled. But let's stay out of the actual argument on politics as far as what the little towns are concerned. Let's go to what I like to talk about. That's us, the blue-collar workers, looking at what can be done for the homeless. Now, first of all, homeless is a complete culture that started a few years back and is growing and is scary. It really, truly is every day getting more and more scary. Why? Well, simply because these encampments that are showing up, what is the first thing that happens? Okay, the first thing that happens is we have an increase of crime. That's just right off the bat. We have things disappearing. We have horrendously horrible crimes going on. We have the situation of how do we combat the crime aspect when we've defunctioned and defunded our police departments. But that, too, is good for another show. Think about that for a moment, though. Then we have drugs moving in right behind. There's nothing better than an encampment to help out the individual cartels that are moving drugs into our cities through gangs and through different ways that we've unlocked because of defunding of police departments and making the police departments completely non-functional if they could get away with it, and officers being handcuffed, as I said so many shows, to the point where they can't really make a move to make an arrest because the jail would have them for a little short period of time. They get before the judge, and then all of a sudden, Johnny or George or whatever his name is, he's actually, a nice guy. So he made a mistake. Let's let him loose. And within a couple of days, he's back on the streets selling fentanyl. It's just a complete, merry-go-round. It keeps going around and around and around, and we're not getting anywhere with it. More and more people are showing up homeless. The crime rate, as I said, is going up. Property destruction is getting out of control because these homeless encampments are not, the Conrad Hilton Hotel Center for relaxation or living. When you stop and think about the factor that, they accumulate after a few months tons of garbage. They've urinated all over the place. And the list of what I consider inhuman living is taking place. Rotten food, garbage not being disposed of properly, and the list goes on. In fact, I heard a lady on the news that was talking about the factor when she was asked, point blank, have you ever found any dead people in these encampments or these cars alongside the roads in Seattle or some of the towns where they're pulling plastic over the car and living in the car, or old campers or old horrible-looking shacks that are built out of garbage, literally, that they found alongside the streets and then a tarp thrown over them? The answer is yes. Their organization has found 5 or 6, and one of them was so It was down to skeletons, to be honest with you. They don't know how long this individual was in the car and when he had died. But when they had discovered the factor, because everybody stays out of there, nobody wants to go out and knock on doors and do welfare checks, of course, because these are all homeless. You don't want to get involved with those people. But when they did go out on the streets, when they pounded on the doors and checked, they had no idea how long this death had occurred, how long ago it was. Maybe it was a month, but from decomposition of the body down to practically the skeleton, I'd say it was there quite some time. It is horrible. What is going on? Why can't our legislators work with the money they have? Because they're spending millions of dollars a month, at least that's what they're telling us, and they're spending all this money and putting all this effort into supposedly building these little home villages and finding corporations that'll run them, get CEOs in there, and then they can staff it. Of course, they all get paid very well. They can staff it, and then they can classify how this home dwelling situation is going to be managed and taken care of. Now, there's one going on in Frederickson, Washington, from what I understand, and I don't have all the details, but I understand that they've got everything ready to go, and they're going to put over 100 of these tiny homes in this area. This is going to be very interesting for the folks up in Frederickson. Frederickson is a very young, new industrial center. It's been an area of the Pierce County for many, many, many years. But now, with that explosion of interest in property being developed, we're now going to put a homeless encampment of 100 mini homes in Frederickson. I hope it works. But here's what I think is wrong with the whole situation. I really believe that when you put that many homes together, you're spending a lot of money. Okay, are we spending a lot of money just to house these people temporary? Or are we extending a helping hand? Because we know that, number one, a lot of people in those homeless encampments have drug problems. A lot of them have mental issues. There are others that are senior citizens or older individuals that the issue is they don't have an income, and they're to the point age-wise that trying to find a job or an activity is almost impossible. That starts it. Now, we're going to lock all these people up in these cute little homes. It was very interesting when they did a study. An organization went into an encampment, I call it, and of many modular homes, very nice ones. And what they asked was, what else could we do to help you, to get you prepared and get you back into the communities? And most of them, I would say a large percentage of them, said, give us something we can do. Get us started again. Isn't that a simple thing to do when you drive down the streets here in the freeways in Washington and see garbage alongside the street by the carloads? Why aren't we giving these people an opportunity, instead of the junior corps, an opportunity to go out and successfully pick up garbage? While they're doing that, it gives them an opportunity to get outside. It gives them an opportunity to start feeling worth, even if it isn't picking up garbage. Those types of jobs. It gives them a helping hand up to get them prepared to their whole life and change it, translate it into a new life, that means something. It helps them, give them that spark, that helping hand up spark to continue to work hard and get back into community service. Now, let's add to that programs that we can introduce mental health, that we can extend a helping hand out to those that are addicted. Put these packages together. But, of course, I'm really probably going a little bit further than I should, because the governor would probably think that whole idea might not be too good, frankly, because A, he didn't think of it, B, it might not work, of course, because it seems in this state the governor in Olympia and the liberal people want to run the rest of us. It's very evident that they don't understand that we voted for them. They should be listening to us. It's now the other way around. We will listen to them. And I think that when you look at something like that, you think to yourself, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. Because we have all these people out in the streets, a great working force that we could put back together, keep them out of the situation of having crime and things of that nature going on all the time. And it does. I mean, even in where studios are at, we're hearing this type of sirens. We know it's police department or it's a fire department responding on drug situations. It could be any amount of different things going on. So it makes you wonder why we can't use the resources that we have in the communities to build these, I call encampments, into actual rehabilitation encampments and put people back on the street again. It, to me, is a no-brainer. And when I say a no-brainer, I don't mean fire engines showing up, policemen jumping out, and all those other horrifying things that happen. I mean a really, truly no-brainer. I'm hoping that in the future we can do something like this. But I'm afraid most of the time that we're not getting the input. We're not getting the conversation. We're not getting leaders that are listening to us. We're not really using our voice to prevent these problems from happening simply by putting pressure on the legislating powers to be and saying, hey, you want to stay in office? You work for us. You work with us. We can get things together as an organization, as a community, as a legal government body to make a change, and we deserve those changes. I hope that this show is giving you kind of a start of what we want to do on our podcast coming up, because we'll be talking more about the homeless. I'm really excited about this, by the way. I haven't heard too many homeless shows about anybody that's being homeless that has lived that life for a while and then turned their life around and gone to work. Now, Reverend Crow was a fine example of that. After 10 years and 4 times through rehab, what wonderful things he has done with his mission, and what lives he has actually reinforced, turned around, and put back into the community and given them the second chance to dream the American dream. We'll have a lady that will be coming on here, a younger lady that will be coming on talking about 3 hard years living on the streets. And we'll be asking her questions and where she is now, which I'm very honored to say she's doing very, very well. But we'll get the really insight from her of what we're talking about when we talk about the homeless story. You can reach me, by the way, by simply going to Keeba. That's Keeba, Keeba, agency @gmail.com. You can drop us a line. Maybe you have a story about homeless and you'd like to have it on the air, or you'd like to discuss it with us. The new show's coming up on Thursday. We will be making more changes and giving an opportunity to do that. We want to hear from you because we want to start a conversation. We want the loud mic to start a conversation, to give a helping hand up to those innocent bystanders and people that are trying to survive on our streets today. We want to make a difference. We know that we can do it, and we know that the strongest power in this state to get something straightened around, the strongest power is not going to the circus in Olympia and listening to them pass bills that really don't affect the homeless like it should, if they even get to that part of it. We want to be able to sit down, talk amongst ourselves, put a plan together, and move with action to come up with answers. You can also check us out on the new website, and boy, we keep building it. We really do. I'm not an expert on websites, but we're trying real hard. We got some information. Our up-to-date shows are on there, so you can listen to them, or you can go to our little microphone and leave us an audio message that we can play on the air if that's what you decide to do so. If you don't think the show's very good, let us know. I like to hear both sides of the story. Being a podcaster, that to me is very important. So, the website name is, Bill, why didn't you give this, by the way? It's Keeba, Keeba, Keeba Smiling. Okay, .com. Have you noticed how we kind of put that together with the email address, keebasmiling.com? Until we can talk with you again next Thursday, you all have a great week, and thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you again soon on Keeba Live.